Thank you for being here, and today we're looking at climate debt to finance the just transition. Climate debt to finance just transition is rooted in the recognition that wealthy industrialized nations, primarily responsible for the largest share of historical greenhouse gas emissions, owe a climate debt to poorer and often climate vulnerable nations. The climate debt refers to the responsibility high emissions countries bear for environmental degradation and climate impacts disproportionately affecting developing nations, which have contributed to the least global warming. And on the panel today is Nemo Bassi, who is an environmentalist and the director of HUMEF, and also Yvonne Yanes from Action Ecological, and Stephen Oduwari. So I'm going to ask one question to the three of you. Considering the context of the COP, what do you think countries will benefit from looking at the finance? So I'm going to start from my left.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. The issue of financing climate adaptation and mitigation has been on for a long time, and we are all aware of the targets that have been set in the past that were never met, or were barely met, or met in various ways that did not really show justice. In 2009, the target was set in the Copenhagen Accord that from 2020, the developed world will contribute $100 billion per year to help the vulnerable impacted nations to adapt to the challenges of global warming. By the time of the Paris Agreement, this deadline was shifted to 2025, and it was only last year or so that we heard that the $100 billion target was reached for the first time. But that didn't come by way of just grants, but it came with a number of measures, including loans. So it wasn't really $100 billion available to help. It was a kind of business deal to further extract resources from those who are most impacted by global warming. We should be talking about a recognition and payment of a climate debt. This is not a new idea, but we do understand, we must emphasize that over the years, there's been an unacceptable level of extraction, of exploitation of the countries in the global south especially, as well as the taking up of the carbon budget. Now, when the carbon budget has almost been exhausted by the polluting nations, and now we're sharing we are struggling to share the burden of climate action, not considering the fact that someone has taken up the budget, someone has forced everyone into this crisis, and so we're calling for a recognition of that fact, and then demanding that we recognize and pay a climate debt, which is estimated at about $5 trillion by environmental economists. $5 trillion to cover the ecological losses, the social losses, as well as the economic losses.
A couple of things regarding what is the ecological and the climate debt, and this has to do or not with what we are claiming since 30 years ago or more about the ecological and the climate debt. I think that if we see carefully here in the United Nations and in the Convention on Climate Change, when they talk about that we need to find enough money to finance the needs of the southern countries. This is what is written in the documents. The needs of the southern countries. And apparently we need now, as Nemo said, $6 trillion. But I think that we really do not need this money. Because this money is coming with debts, is coming with conditions, is coming through the World Bank, is coming through conditionalities of structural adjustment in our countries. So if this money is coming like this, thank you very much. We don't need neither the 100 billion money. But when we see more carefully what this word needs mean, this has nothing to do with the needs of the southern countries. This has the needs of the northern countries to supposedly to say that they are reducing their emissions through the Paris Agreement and the NDCs and everything that has to do with carbon offsets. So when we talk about needs in the context of the Convention of Climate Change in the UN, we are not talking about the real needs of the southern countries that we have. And the needs should not be defined here, or with the World Bank, or with through the Paris Agreement. The needs should be defined from our territories, from our countries, from our people's real needs.
For me, I think that the benefits for countries for the loss and damage fund is something that borders on is a matter of, as we speak, it's a matter of life and death for me. Life because when this fund is given and appropriately used to solve the issues on ground, it will help us and our communities to thrive again. It will help our communities to live again. And that's because if this is not done, then our communities will be reduced to mere geographical expressions, because our communities would most likely be wiped out, because our communities really do not have the capacity to respond to the emerging issues from the climate crisis. So it is a matter of life and death. And just to reiterate the fact that COP29 has the opportunity to write its name in history for taking the step towards actualizing that.
When we talk about climate finance, it's not just about the money, as it was. We're talking about life. And the Conference of Parties have tended to be an arena for what's speaking. We have new concepts coming up every year, rather than real action. We heard about phasing down, not phasing out. We heard about transition just from one of fossil fuel from energy sector, and now in this COP, one term that has become very popular, is the so-called new collective quantified goal. Where this is just stretching the matter too far. We've had a rate of voluntary action and not solving the problem. Now we're talking about new collective quantified goal, whereas we do know who has created the problem. Why do we always place the button on the victims? Why is the system always pushing away from real action that will save lives and save the planet? What is new collective quantified? There's no collectivity because there's no democracy in the system. So what's this nickname of getting people to feel we're part of the solution, whereas we're struggling to survive the flood? And just about the issue of the climate debt we're demanding for, which is not a new idea, but which is what we talk about for ages. We demand that the attention should be paid to that fact that there's a debt that is being owed, that somebody has taken up the carbon budget, that the crisis is affecting certain people in a way that is disproportionate compared to where the problem is coming from. And then the finance should not be a new system of trapping down the more vulnerable nations.
Thank you.